Greetings, everyone. Rev.Hawksblood here, calling from the big island of Hawaii. Merry Christmas. I guess you could say Happy New Year, too, when it comes. But this is going to be so hardcore, I don't think too many people will stick around if there are any religious bones in their body or ideas in their body, thinking they're religious and believe their true religion is true. All right. Now, I'm going to go into truth only, nothing else. But the problem is, man believes man's truth. Everything written down is man's truth, not God's, not Jesus's, not Buddha's. Buddha spoke and people wrote things down, took what they needed from him. Now, there's books that compare Buddha and Jesus together. They are not the same in any way at all. They weren't both preaching love. Love didn't exist when Buddha was alive, believe it or not, people. Love didn't exist before Jesus was born either. So all the teachers, all the masters, all the people prophesizing and all that had nothing to do with love and the truth about it. But when it did come and it was shown to people, it wasn't taught to people, man abused it right away. So now let's get into something even more important. Okay, I got the chat room open. It's open for any kind of questions that you can possibly think of pertaining to what we're talking about. If you have any questions and it's important, put it in the chat room. I'll answer it. Otherwise, leave it there and I can bring you on the show if it's really that important. All right. Religion. We're going to start with religion. Religion is quite old. Since the beginning of man on this planet, they had to create religions for their ego, for their mind, accepting where they are, accepting what they're doing, which was never really important. Because here's the thing. In the first religion, which was Hinduism, they were working with animals, and then it became deities. Deities became half animal and half human, a lot of them. Some were all human in some forms, but had multiple legs, arms, multiple heads. And Buddhism's teachings are a lot different among people that study or learn their. And a lot of paths, including Ekankar, another path, it's always bringing it back down to it's always your higher self. I mean, and over those kind of teachings, mankind has accepted the idea that we're one with the universe. That means a lot of nothing at all. The universe didn't create us. All right, didn't create different aliens and all that as well. The whole aspect of being one with the universe is what reason. Man wants to feel good about himself and equal to everything. And then it's a universal consciousness. Universal to what? Each other? Does anybody on this planet think the same about anything? I'm sure they don't. All right? And that's a little bit scary. Because people that think they're important, people that think they have a certain mission to do, and all those kind of words, which I'm going to get into, because it's all lies, people. You lie to yourself constantly. You believe your lies. You believe everybody else's lies. Is there any space in your brain, in your being, to accept a new truth or a real truth? I'm pretty locked in my ways because I haven't heard anything more important, more real, and more truthful than what I experienced in my whole life. I just turned 70. And I was experiencing things as far as deities, angels, out-of-body experiences, traveling in the world, all that. Being next to a Bigfoot, being next to an alien. All of. Now, do I have a reason to talk about what I'm talking about? Yes, I do. I had 5 death experiences. I don't know too many people that can say that have an awareness of what actually happened. Now, I'm going to get into these things little by little, but that word is really important because when you have a death experience, all right, something happens. You leave your body. Now, the biggest debate based on Buddhist teachings is what leaves the body. They'll say consciousness, but it's the brain's consciousness. which is a lie. Now, two things I'll say before I keep going into that. Buddha never went higher than the astral plane, never met a god, doesn't believe in God. All right, now back to when Buddhism was created, they were following deities. Now, how come there's no deities around today? No, what are they doing? They're not here in the physical. I don't know if they ever really were. I mean, in out of body experiences, going into the astral plane, you could experience multiple things in a short period of time. But the things you need to be experiencing is past lives that you had, whether you believe it or not. You need to find them out, or it will stop you from moving forward spiritually. Just because you walk around and say I'm spiritual and you die, you don't go to what you assume as heaven, and you don't have to go to hell because you're already in it. This is hell, people, and I'll explain that. Simple. This is the only place in all of God's worlds where you can experience pain, see it, create it. You could watch a child die, you could watch a man die, you could watch somebody hurt somebody, and you could hurt somebody, and all those things. And you could kill people. Even in the astral plane, you cannot kill another person because you're not a person, you're a soul. All right. All these people in every level, from religion, spiritual, and all that, trying to prove different things. They'll never prove there's a God because God doesn't come into this realm. Why would it? Why would it have to? Even, I'm sorry, when it goes through everything together, that's the way I speak. Adam and Eve. All right. Why would God lie to them? Why would God lie to anybody? Why would God have to lie? What do you think God says to people? And what do you think people do when they talk to God? Well, they write books and make money, like some people, a conversation with God. Really? I challenge him any second and any day to come on. God doesn't talk about love, people. So I'm going to tell you that it's not about love. Life isn't about love. You think you can't become spiritual, living your life in a cave all by yourself, living, eating, and thinking and working from that level? You can't be spiritual because you didn't experience love? I'm not talking about loving trees, loving the ocean, animals. I'm talking about loving something more important than that, all of that. Not family love. That's the second to the highest level. But here's the thing, people. When we talk about these great masters in history, what were they teaching? The word compassion was in existence. Kings, queens, mother and father, people like that, had compassion or not. And then again, in those days, women, up until Jesus was born, people, which means 2,000 years ago, women were never accepted as anything important. Ever. Queens, yeah. Now, Joan of Arc was probably the biggest woman history in the Bible. I'm not talking about mother of Jesus, no, but we'll get to that later. But in all through history, Joan of Arc was ruling from a powerful state, and the world couldn't deal with it. So they killed her at 20. All right. Now, all the women in the Bible, how many women do you actually see became and were something important in the Bible? Men wrote 90% of everything, basically everything, really. But women wrote things, but a lot of that was not put in the Bible. Mary Magdalene's manuscripts, Thomas's manuscripts never put in the Bible either. A lot of them, their manuscripts were never added to the Bible. When the Bible was created, it was created for one reason, people. Not to direct you to God, to direct you into control. Go to a church, watch what they do, sing, pray, and all that. And what do they do when they leave? Same old normal things that normal people do. If you become aware, you can't live normally because you know the lies that exist in this reality, which is just about everything. Why are you here? Keep that in your mind. as I go through all these different things. We'll get into that at the very end. Why are you here? All right. Now, with all these concepts, just the hair. What all these concepts about aliens coming to help us? Really? How many people even had a direct experience with aliens? I worked with that most of my life. It started after I was 6 years old. But when I actually worked with people by the time I was 18 and doing past life regressions and things like that, all the way up until I decided I didn't want to do it no more, I was doing ghost busting. I was a high priest. I was involved with just about everything that is important or is not. I mean, the things that are not, I can't say I did everything. I did a few things that were not important. But basically everything else I did was. Buying your food to eat, paying your rent, things like that is a have to. But as far as spiritual growth, spiritual wisdom, spiritual truth do not come part of that. Going to college, going to school, none of that helps you spiritually, ever. Even worse, your mother and father had nothing spiritual to teach you. Oh, they made me go to church. That's not spiritual. Did they teach you about God other than the lies about it? Did you go to any other kind of schools? I mean, all the different Hindu religions, Buddhism religions, Catholic, Protestant, Jehovah Witness, Hare Krishna. All what? Hare Krishna. Really? I studied them all the important ones, 14, even though there's 2,000 religions on this planet. But none of them, except to even come close to what God is, or even an aspect of trying to find it, get in touch with it. Not that it's ever going to come down and say, hey, hi, because that's not going to happen, ever. If the world was going to be destroyed tomorrow, God would not come down here. Even in Revelations, it talks about this woman coming down in a chariot, fighting the demons. I mean, the 7 signs. We're in 7. We had 7 signs. We're having them right now. All right. Don't believe in the Bible? That's okay, because a lot of it is lies. But among lies, there's always a bit of truth. But a person never knows where the truth and the lies start to begin when they tell their lies. And what the problem is with liars, they never could tell the story the same exact way. Because they don't know what it is. How could they repeat it exactly the same? Pass the sentence around. It changes by the time it gets around to the end. Everybody's understanding of simple words is different. God, religion, truth, and love. How many people understand that? I'm going to go into a few other important words. Ascension, Christ consciousness, universal consciousness, religion and spiritualism. Where do they differ? Where do they come in common? Are they in common in any way? Do they teach you anything when you get involved with all those words? Well, religion's old, very old. And when the Ten Commandments came out, that was a long time ago. I mean, 10 Commandments were not bad. Nothing on them are evil or hurt people. I mean, when Moses came out and created 613, which I always have to bring up, all those laws are useless. It had nothing to do with spiritual growth or spiritual wisdom. All his laws was about sex and food and everything else. So going back to Hinduism, it was all about sex. Kama Sutra. All right. And all the words that they use, that actually use in sexual energy. All right. Which is not a way to get closer to God. It's a way to get closer to your brain and its 5 passions. Plus its 5 senses. And I hope you know what they are. Things like touch, smell, feeling, all right, taste, all those words. The 5 senses of the brain has nothing to do with God. So when you get stimulated, it's not God saying, I love you, or you saying you love God. It's your brain saying it's having a great feeling, an emotion. Those emotions will never get you to God. Hinduism believed it, but they didn't know what God was in the first place. How do you get somewhere when you don't know what it is And how do you know you're there when you're there if you don't know what it is? It's all contradictory. All right. Now, I know it's Christmas Day, and a lot of people won't be going on to the internet listening to shows, especially now. It's let's give gifts to each other. Let's be happy and all. I'm not saying it's wrong, but the whole reason what today is wrong. It wasn't about giving children toys. That's not what Christmas is about. What is Christmas really about? Bunch of lies. Now, what was Christmas when Jesus was born? 3 wise men coming to give a person a gift for a baby being born? But what did that mean? Who knew all that? It was first one person talking about it, warned everybody about it, and was killed later on, but who actually baptized Jesus. So, history on things can be important or not important. And I'll say this over and over, 98% aren't important. Being here, living life is not important, people. You believe it is. Why are you here? Because you believe it's important to be here. To do what you think you're supposed to be doing, which you don't even know what it is. Having a family, having children, buying houses, cars, boats, submarines, rockets. What are you spending your money on? What do you care about? Football, baseball, hockey, sports have nothing to do with spiritualism. Now, one person is deciding not to do what they sing at every game when they start a game, which is cool because it has nothing to do with the actual life of the United States. Sports aren't that. Native people did things. They didn't call it sports. Their game was called the stick game. And it wasn't about winning either. There was no way to win. It was just to play. Each person had a stick and they whack rocks around. And that was called the stick game. You can call it hockey. You can call it a lot of things later on when man has made it into something where you have to win. All right. Do you do things without having like, I got to win or I got to make more money or I got to do something just to have fun? Well, that's where cheap thrills come in. I got to jump out of a plane and not pull my chute until I get near the ground. Got to jump off a cliff on a bungee cord. I got to jump out of what? A helicopter to land on the water, to get into a submarine, and every aspect of what we think is important or to do with spiritual truth. Why is that? Because man doesn't want it. Think about that. What does man want? Oh, they want to say they're spiritual. They want to tell you how important love is. Love isn't as important in any aspect as you think it is. In a relationship, 2 people fall in love and they go through the wedding. The wedding vows were created because people loved each other. I'll stay with you until death do us part. That doesn't exist anymore. You're going crazy. You're sick. I don't want to be with you. I got 10 other girlfriends. Why would I want to be with you and stay with you anymore? Is all kinds of reasons why it can't exist here anymore. Nobody's willing to. And I told my ex-wife, I told people that she was with, I told a lot of people, love can only work in a situation of 100%. 100% of giving. Not taking, 100% giving. Because if both 2 people are giving 100%, anything can go. And nobody's going to stop the other from doing it. But then again, if you really love the person, you won't do certain things because you know it's not right. So, we create this word love as being the most important word on the planet. It's not. Do aliens love us? No, people. Do animals love us? Some animals do. Dogs are probably the most dedicated creature on the planet to love of a person that takes care of them. They love people that abuse them even. Sometimes they change a lot, but they can forgive a person real easy, not like people. So what are we here for? Did you come up with any ideas? Become spiritual? How do you become spiritual here? Well, there's simple steps. First, you have to learn how to get out of your body. Not remote view. It starts, people do remote viewing, which is not a fair and good thing to do. But astral projection is probably the most important first step you can take. Being able to project yourself out of the body. All right. Then you can meet angels and all those other words that you need to go further. You're not going to attain all that by yourself ever. Not in the inner worlds. It's just like school. Teachers of every level in each aspect of it, teaching you and showing you your next steps. And, people, when they start leaving their bodies, they meet with a guide. Take me to Mount Shasta. Take me somewhere. Take me here. Take me there. Not asking, why are you here? Where can you take me? That I can move forward. You don't know where you're going to take your next step that can help you attain a more spiritual level or become aware. Aliens can't do it either. And they're not going to. They're not here for your benefit. They're not here to help you. They didn't make you either. Now, the word love is overused. Not true. Because you can only love one thing. They say you love yourself before you can love anybody else. How do you love yourself unless you can understand God in the first place? You can't. So when someone says, I love myself, you're loving your ego. What do you do? What do you do that relates to God? Oh, I gave money to a homeless person. I said unconditional love. You think God's sending you unconditional love? Guess what? It is. Because in this realm, it doesn't matter. You have freedom. It's up to you to take that freedom and move forward. But if you don't have the right guide, how are you going to do that? Who's going to help you take the next step? Every time I start doing my show, I start getting itchy for some reason. Why? Who do you go to? Who's spiritual on this planet? I'll name the top 5. Dalai Lama, the Pope, Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle. Oprah's like around 8 or 9, but she shouldn't be there either. All these people getting credit for being certain things. Who's the top psychic on the planet? How psychic are they? Who's these words? Where did these words come from? Who can prove them? Psychic abilities do exist. I'm not going to say they don't. There's 32 of them. Do you know any of them? Can you do any of them? Well, when you're sitting in a car and you look ability. All right, is it dangerous? No. When you're walking down the street and something tells you to do something, is that important? Of course it is. Learning to listen to soul, who you are, what you are, not mind. Mind is a program computer. People, the mind gets a wrinkle for every thought it gets, and it's like a storage bank, like the chip you put in your phone, a chip you put in your computer. It's storage. It's not alive or well or anything important to your consciousness. Now, when you talk about consciousness, what's real consciousness? Mind's awareness? Mind's aware of what? What it's been programmed to be aware of. And that's limited to mind of man, which is limited to ego. All right. Let's take a step to a different word. I hope you all know what compassion is. All right. You can have compassion for a tree, an ant, a caterpillar, a squirrel, anything. But does that make you spiritual? No, it doesn't. All right, so I'm not going to stick with that word too long. The other word, which is another abuse of a word, and I'll challenge anybody on this planet any day, any second, my show, theirs, or offline on their phone, anyway. Christ consciousness. If I said I'm Tommy consciousness, it would be true. I'm consciousness of me. Christ consciousness, Name a person on this planet that understands Christ in a great, great way. I can say I do. Can you? Do you know what he was really teaching in any way? He wasn't here to protect your sorry ass. Oh, well, he came to forgive us. For what? Being an idiot? He forgives you for being an idiot. What are you going to be the day after? Still an idiot. All right. What he was teaching wasn't taught to all the people on the mountain or here, there, and everywhere. They weren't ready for the truth. They couldn't even perceive an idea of a word God. What's God mean? Look in the dictionary. Very limited definition. Because nobody that's writing the definition of God has a clue of what God really is. In any form, shape, color, energy level, vibration, light. Seeing the light, oh, that's God. No, it's not. The light is of God, but it isn't God. Oh, God spoke to me. God doesn't speak to people. Not in hell. Angels do. Deities do. And so what? The other word people don't believe in is demons. All right. So Christ consciousness is a word that man's ego created. Well, Jesus Christ was the most spiritual person, so I'm going to connect with that and be that. No, you're not. Can one person on this planet heal the dead? No. Can they rise a mountain? Can they do anything? Of course not. Not anymore. They were all taken away for reasons. And it's quite obvious what the reason would be. If I give you a gun to protect yourself, you're going to go out and shoot things anyway. You know, they'll all be used as a weapon. A weapon become rich and famous, and when that happens, you become mind, powerful ego, like all the rich people on the planet. And that's why Jesus said many times, 3 times in the Bible alone, says it's easier for a camel to go through an eye of a needle than a rich person to go into heaven. Why would he say something like that? And why would he repeat it? Because it's so true. And when money becomes the only thing for living, you're so far away from the truth. Sure, you have to have money in this world, because man doesn't respect each other, doesn't have compassion for each other, and have no understanding of God. So how's this world going to become a better place, people? All these people in the spiritual realm, I mean, when they say they're in a spiritual place, like 6th dimensional, ascended, and all those words, ascension, they went to ascension. No, they did not. They're all liars. Do whatever you want. If I had money, I'd take them all to court and put them in a liar. Ascension. I know a person, good friend. She was teaching Ascension years and years ago. She started in Hawaii. But the true definition of Ascension was not what she was teaching. Name one person that you believe went to Ascension other than Jesus. Buddha didn't. Moses did not. He was working in it. But you know, you abuse something, you lose it. If I tell you, if I'm God and I tell you not to kill people, and what's the first thing you do is kill 300 people? You really think you're spiritual? You're not. Killing is not a law that we're allowed to be and do. When people think they have the right to blow up a country, blow up a city, blow up a town, that's karma. For a lot of people, not the people that get killed. If somebody dropped a bomb on the planet and blew everybody up, it would free you from your karma if you were working from more of a spiritual level. Now, when you look at this from another level, if you were working from the astral plane, you would know everything about here. They call it the Akashic records that exist there. It's all your things that you did in this realm, in hell. Not the things you do in the higher realms. Of course, that's only a level of the astral plane. Very low sound. Every plane that God created has its own sound. You know, people say they can hear the sound, which I can, of the planet, of the earth. It's nothing spiritual. The higher you go, the higher the sound. I mean, hardcore sounds like the vibration here. The astral plane is not much better. But when you get up to where soul dwells, where it does when it leaves this lower world, becomes aware, and it goes somewhere, which is level 5, if you want a number. Soul can stay there for infinity then, and be in the bliss and do things and work for God directly. But you can move on from there. God doesn't limit any soul from moving forward, ever. Not that it'll ever become greater or even equal to God if it lets him move past the astral plane, the 5th plane where soul dwells, which is called the soul plane. All right. Each one of his planes, I shouldn't use that either, but that's the accepted word for God, his. And it's not a he or she. So saying he all the time is a program, and it programs man's mind. So when people create the idea of what God is, it's created out of all the programmed ideas that they have about a God, which are not even close to the truth. Give me 1 second. I'm going to try to cut that other noise out. Hold on. Check out my shirt. Check out my back. I just finished doing it. Sorry about that. Too much noise. Too much noise coming in. All right. We can go a lot of different ways, but it all pertains to the truth, not the lies. So, Christ consciousness, if you knew Christ, you could talk about it. You would understand what he thought, what he felt. He was a he. He wasn't an alien. He was a human. He never claimed to be God, never was a God. He was a being that went through ascension. You don't become God ever. Nobody ever does. Being aware of is about the same in this physical world. Because you say, well, there's a God, but if you don't know God, it's the same as not knowing God is there. But just saying, well, because I was told God's there. No, you don't know God. So consciousness was created by Buddha. But it's mind thoughts, not soul. He gets incredibly complicated because it was 4 Buddhas, but each one had their way of bringing people into this awareness that he had. Okay, it's called the bliss state. It's on the astral plane. It's a state where you can go, it's called the light and sound. You hear that phrase all the time. But God has 2 rays, really 3, but one's ascending and one's descending. One's going up and one's coming down from God. The middle one's stationary. So if you don't want to go either up or down, you stay there, wherever that is. But when you step into that, you can go higher. If you're going up, coming down, it's not really helping you. So even understanding 2 different ways that light travels can help you or break you. It might take you away from your spiritual path completely, and you don't even know it. Well, I saw the light. You saw a light. Okay. I see a light ship almost anytime I go out. A ball of light blinking at me, super bright light like a spotlight. I mean, it's not a satellite. It's not a shooting star. And I talk to the quote famous people in the UFO world have no clue to the truth. They don't deal with God. They don't deal with Jesus. They don't deal with the higher levels of soul. They deal with mind, power, and ego. Caroline Corey, she put 2 movies out. I don't know if the third one's out, but she claims a lot of things. She claims she could change people's DNA. Well, changing a person's DNA with a machine that man made isn't doing much at all. Nassar Harriman claims he's going to get money together to buy and put a machine on his Ark of the Covenant to go on what the government has, and then he's going to change the world's vibration. So he thinks he's God. Now, people like David Wilcock, when he first came out and was on TV, he said he was God. You know, ego is always there. When people talk, they're coming from ego. Do I talk from ego? We have to have a form of ego to know who we are. But to say we're better, I'm not better than nobody. I don't even say I'm spiritual, people. When I attain spiritual awareness completely, I won't be here. There's no reason to be here when you do. Because you can't work. Hi, how you doing? You can't work for God here. Oh, yes, you can. You can do this. And what's it do? You know what I say? When people, there's a baby trapped or in a sewer or some weird situation. Car went in the water and the car went under and they're drowning. Hundreds of police and cops, fire engine, firemen, people from all over will help and try to help it. All right. Thank you. So here's the thing. While that's going on, we're dropping bombs on cities and states and towns and all that. And the massive killing and the sexual problems with man in general with his ego. There's a war going on in almost every person, every man. Women are starting to be pulled into the same energy, which they never had the power to fight it. They could have. But you know, when it came to money, it was easy to sell your body than get a job. And it was always the excuse. I always worked. I didn't graduate. I went to my 3rd level of high school and quit. I got my diploma next year, but what's that, piece of paper? But did I learn anything in school? My brother went to St. Peter's College, and they have religious part of their teachings as well. And he became an atheist. So, you know, schooling, any school, doesn't teach you about spirit, soul, life, and death. Now, I was working with Sergeant 18 for years. We filmed multiple UFOs that have never been proven or people cared about then because we showed them all the time and nothing ever happened. Except I'm not going to, I think he was bought out by the government, was given money, and he pulled everything we ever did down from everywhere. Yeah, well, people don't get that this is hell and don't want to. They don't want to believe they're living in hell. What a horrible thing. Oh, I'm in hell. I don't smile a lot. I don't laugh a lot. People say, why don't you smile? Oh, it's funny. I said, what's funny? Every second that some child's being abused, somebody's being killed, then you want to go into what's happening every split second? And you think it's a beautiful place? You think you're becoming spiritual? Living in hell? How do you become spiritual in hell? You don't. You believe what you tell yourself. That you can do. Nobody can change that. But you can also be hypnotized and reprogrammed. And you'll believe a lot of little things. If you can be hypnotized. Some people can't. I can't be. I was always protected from everything. Probably except, I'm not saying I'm protected from the government or things like that, but basically any psychic thing or any other level. When I was doing ghost busting, when I was doing exorcisms, I was always protected. When I challenged high priests, I was always protected. Why? because I started at 6 years old trying to understand God's worlds. And nobody told me about them. I was never reading books on witchcraft or demons or any of that. I never read books at all. I think I read 4 books all through my whole school years. Call of the Wild, Wife Bang. We had to read the one about animals being people-like, Animal House. And one that the movie came out with Ringo Starr in it. It was a book. All right. They were the only books I ever read in school. After that, I didn't read many books. I read a few native books later on in life. But I always look for truth, important truth that can help us move forward. People don't want to hear that. Oh, I'll go through ascension. How? What do you do to go through ascension? Now, truth. Who brought human race here? Not the Anunnaki didn't create us here. They did not. There's 9 races here. There's only 4 now. The Anunnaki didn't create us, and we don't change, people. In 100,000 years, we're the same. We were never ancient caveman and all those other words. We weren't them. God created lots of things, but it created things to make things better always. When a cell mutates, it doesn't get better every time. It doesn't. You mutate something 1,000 times, you're not going to have 1,000 times better person. You're going to have 1,000 times different things. All right. People, when I do my shows, I've tried to put the truth out. A lot of it's the same because there is only one truth. Why are you here? Second thing, how do you get away from here? Reincarnation just means you're coming back. All right. I'm going to go into the other word now. Ascension. When people I know say they went through ascension, when you hear people, and I'm going to tell you this. 2 famous people in the UFO world did a workshop on ascension. Neither one of them knows what it means. Pretty sad. How do you do a class without knowing what the word means? Their ego tells them they think they know, and they start promoting it. Ascension, all right, was taught by who? Who was the first person on this planet or thing or whatever taught about ascension? Do you have a clue? Buddha, Moses, people like Socrates and Nostradamus? No. Who taught it? Karma, we'll get that. We're not talking about karma yet, or Jesus. Who taught about it? Guess nobody knows. Well, first you have to figure out how mankind got to planet Earth. And very few souls know. Greetings, John. Who do you think? Who's this ascension person? Think about it. All the writings, all the teachings. Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Muslim, all those religions. Hare Krishna just pray to a person that's relating to God. All right. They don't hurt people in general. They have to grab money and things like that. That's what they do for a living. I studied with them a little while. My aunt was a Hare Krishna. Made me go to a couple of churches. They worked their things. Well, it was Thursday night. You could get a free meal. All right. But again, what were they teaching? Singing God, God, God. Would that help you in any way become spiritual? Singing about something you don't know what it is. Well, if I was talking about an apple seed and I never ate an apple, what would it mean to me? Oh, a seed is something that grows. Oh, it can grow into an apple. But that's what you know and you could see and you could prove it. What happens when you can't prove it? 99 or 98% of all experiences people have zero proof, and they're proving the wrong thing. Ascension was attained by Jesus. I would say with a medicine woman who taught the Emerald Tablets. The Emerald Tablets were taught by Thoth. Not the stories that are in the books, not those stories. They're not going to help you understand Thoth. Because Thoth was a being. And he worked with the Council of Nine. And that people don't even know what that is. They're not aliens, all right? But they are beings, kind of like 9 angels sitting on a up in the world, the astral world. And they decide what happens to the multiverses. Not just Earth, all of them. And they fight with each other and all those kind of things. But Thoth went to them, and they gave him permission to bring humans to this planet. But he brought 9 races here. Right, 9, meaning the most, 369 is the most important numbers. All right, but when they brought the 9 beings here, only 5 of them became spiritual and left. The other 4, red race, black race, yellow race, and they were brought here because, why? Why did man come here? Why were we brought here? Thoth had his own ideas. He was trying to teach truth. But the worlds that these people were living on, originally, there was little truth. So he decided we'll bring them together, the ones that can attain awareness. It worked. Atlantis was created. They were the most spiritual beings that ever walked the planet. It was the only time the word, the Garden of Eden, existed on planet Earth. Not Adam and Eve. That's way after. It took them hundreds of thousands of years, 100,000 years ago. Science is going to tell you what? They can't tell you the truth about Atlantis. They can't tell you the truth about Sumerian. They can't tell you all those words that are in between, the truth and the exact time frames. They can't measure that kind of time. Well, that's billions of years ago. How do you measure billions? Can a machine say? It can give you an idea what it perceives it to be. I heard a top scientist on the internet, I guess he was in his 70s, and he said, anything you hear about space outside of our world, past the ozone layer, is theories. The black hole and all those kind of words. They're playing with them now. They're trying to create a black hole. They said they created a little teeny black hole. If you know what a little teeny black hole is, like, but again, what do they think they're going to do with that? They're building suits to jump into this hole to go into somewhere where they don't even know where they're going to go. But here's the thing, people. I'm going to tell you this, and nobody can talk about it. Planet Earth is in the first realm. There's 3 different dimensions in this realm. Not 5th, 6th, 7th dimension. No, there's 3 different dimensions. Each one of those dimensions has 3 realms within it. That's where the 369 comes from. All right. But in those realms, they don't relate to us in any way. So when you go, well, I could shapeshift and all those words. Yeah, you can. But you're still in hell, people. In hell. You're not in a spiritual place. The astral plane is when you start to think about becoming spiritual. You get to stay there. If that's what your true mission is to move and work into. Outside of that, you're working in hell doing Satan's work. Satan, not Lucifer. Even people in religions and the Luciferians, they have it wrong. All religions have it wrong. Because there is only one God. One true teaching. Everything else is man's ego. Everything else is. So when we talk about 2,000 religions, you could create a religion and go online and say how to create a religion. The first thing it's going to tell you, create a real powerful God. And people will follow it. All right. You know, And that's how religions get created. I'm a priest. I'm a minister, whatever word you want to use. But silly, I have a little more truth than most people do. I'm not bragging. I'm bragging about it because I'm glad that I have it. When I see people teaching and preaching and all those words, God loves us, God's this, God's that. Well, God, don't use God's word. You don't know what God thinks of you as a person. All right. And adrenaline, people like get adrenaline, they pick a car up off a person. They're not becoming super spiritual. The adrenaline's pumped out of a crystal that's inside the brain. And that was only discovered a couple years ago. But it doesn't make you spiritual. And all the talk about crystals are spiritual. No, they vibrate at a different vibration than most people do. So it's different. The higher the vibration is, the more aware of sound you are here or affected by it. Like you take a tuning fork and you hit it and it can break glass. A person can sing high enough to crack a piece of glass. We all vibrate very much at the same vibration. But the aura is the light within a person. Everybody has it. Everybody needs to learn how to read it. I mean, you don't have to read everybody's aura because most people don't have an aura even worth looking at. And that sounds horrible. I spent 2 years working in that field. And you know what I realized? I don't want to read people's auras anymore. You know how many times I saw the light? I'm talking about light radiating like 50 to 100 feet away from a person? Twice. Out of all the people I ever saw in my life. All right. So, and you know what happens? Here's the thing. If you read people's auras, which is something you need to learn, it's not complicated, it's easy. Light of a person is usually just around the body. Like, I can't do it. Around your outer body. All right. There's 2 colors, 3 colors. I don't call white a color, but blue and yellow. If your aura is that, you're spiritual. At a certain level. But are you aware of it? Probably not. Now, when it goes to red, orange, green, all the other colors is anger, hate, love emotions, feeling, all of the other words. It has nothing to do with God. So a person that radiates pure white light or yellow light and it's going distances, they're tuning into the energy coming from God directly. Nobody has to teach them that. Nobody can. How many people that want to do it, spend their lifetime trying to do it, can't? How many people in the Buddhist religion can actually work with a real deity and say what they did when they did it? I work with 3 different deities. I'm not ashamed about it. I work with angels. I work with a lot of different things. Met Satan. But what do you want to do? What do you want to learn? Where do you expect to go when you die? All right. Who are you? Why are you here? Because you're not going to be here long. So where are you going to go? Should be a more important question. Then what are you going to do? Oh, I left the planet. I'm going to heaven and I'm going to sit at a dinner table and have dinner with my family. Really? You think God would have you die to go sit somewhere else to be at a dinner table to eat? People is probably the most scariest thing you ever want to hear. From the programming that we have, because it's so far away from the truth, it's like almost impossible to accept it. I experience it at every level. So yeah, I have to believe it. If I wasn't a foot away from a Bigfoot, I couldn't say to myself, I know a Bigfoot exists. If I wasn't 10 feet away from an alien, I wouldn't say I know aliens exist. If I wasn't 25 feet away from a ship, I wouldn't say ships are real. But I was. All right. Did I talk to God? Everybody can talk to God. And people think it listens. It doesn't listen to all the jibber jabber. How many people? 60%, 80% of the people want world peace? You don't think God hears that? But it didn't create hell to make a peaceful place. You don't grow much I mean, John Lennon was bringing peace to the world, and that's why he was killed. But here's the thing. What if he did? You know, the peace movement, what was it about? It goes back to the original sin, sex. Soul in itself doesn't have it. Soul isn't male or female. So how could it have sex? The perception of what we consume when we use sex as. People, you know, people go on stories, writing books and telling you more stuff about things that are not important, non-existent, not real, not useful. All right. You know, we study with people out there and we think we're learning a lot. Well, think about this. And I always say when I do workshops, I tell people to write down what they think God is and then what they think God is not. Problem is, everything you think God is probably what it's not. Very few people don't know what God is not either. I do it all the time, and I see the results are the same. What is not God? Well, everything's God. Everything's not God. We're all one. We're not all one. You're one with a rapist, a murderer, a killer. Really? And you're okay with that? You think God's okay with that? No, that's why it's called hell. What do you think you need to get out of hell, not stay here? Rich people don't know God, don't know truth, and don't have a religion. Really. They're afraid to leave this reality. That's why they're creating pills and spending millions of dollars and billions of dollars on a cure to live longer or to live forever. They're afraid to go where they're supposed to go. Because there's no sex, it won't be food, it won't be all the things that keep man's attention here. Change is sometimes good. Not in hell, it isn't. Change can't come here. You got to leave it. You can't stay in a burning car. You get out of it. We're in a car. This body is a car. Soul steps in it and drives it for 125 years, and then it has to get rid of it. Or as long as the car lasts. All right? But that's not you. Yeah, unconditional love. What a break. What an idea. Right. You're right on that, John. You know, people don't follow through whatever they think. Think it out. Put it in place. Put it in perspective. Where does it really fit in? Is this true to everything? Truth is true to all things, people. Your understanding of it is this big, or this big. But truth doesn't change, only how much you're willing to accept of it. And usually that's not much. God is real, people. And God is not a man, and it is not a woman. Even when women's rights came out, God's a woman. No, it's not. No, it is not. It created male and female for a reason. All right. The way I would describe us to you, I heard it said already. You take a mirror, drop it on the ground. The biggest piece is God, the little pieces are you. You're not even those little pieces. You're one cell. You're like one grain of sand in a multi-universe. That's your ego. That's who you are. Nobody doing nothing for God. Yeah, billions of pieces of sand make a place for you to walk on, but that's about it. People, you know, we talk about things and we have no clue as well. All right. Spiritualism is a more new word. I mean, when I was young, it came out, and I call them airy-fairy people. Airy-fairy people. People living in dreamland. Things are getting better. No, they're not. Things are changing. No, they're not. Just because we make better toys to play with, and that's all man does, doesn't make them better. A faster car, a faster plane, faster ship, a bigger boat, a bigger train, bigger this, bigger anything, that doesn't make it any better. Now, gene encoding and putting things together. I mean, they've been doing that to trees and plants since I was young. You know, radioactive seeds produce monstrous fruits and vegetables. I did that in a science fair project when I was 12 years old. I'm 70 now. So imagine if they knew that then, what are they doing with radiation? Well, I'll tell you nothing. Aliens can't live here without radiation on the planet. That's why they all live underground. Well, the reptilians can't live here, really. The Greys do. But, you know, people, when we use the word spiritualism, what does it mean to you? Who do you know is a spiritual person? Oh, this person says spiritual stuff. What's spiritual stuff? God loves you? God protects you? How? Well, I was driving my car and it crashed and I was pulled out of the body. I saw this angel. Is that God? No. All right. When you're told not to get on a plane and you don't get on it, is that God telling you that? No. We all have angels, people. We have, give it whatever word you want. An angel's a nice word. All right. And there's so many angels. Spiritual guide is another word, but a guide, an inner guide. We all have 2 or 3, and most people never even listen to one or ever even hear them. I stayed with them for a pretty long time. Then I mean, it's kind of like when watching what's the big show, the number one movie that's played over and over today, tomorrow, and yesterday. Scrooge. Dealing with, what was he dealing with? Souls. Soul of death wasn't a regular soul, and the angel wasn't a regular soul. But when the guy that died that was doing the whole thing with him, all right, he was a soul, but he was stuck in this reality. See, there's so many things that happen that have to be put together. Worms. Well, you know, God didn't write the Bible, man did. And man's words for definitions is pretty lame. Man can't even give a definition to God. All right. I read the Bible over and over. I became a minister for reasons, and I decided I don't want to go all the way. I almost did. I was almost going to open up a church and all that. But, you know, people wouldn't come. People don't want the truth. Because they have this program since they're little. Their parents program them greatly. Then they go to school and get programmed more. Then they go to college and get programmed more. About nothing important. Scientists and evolution of things like that doesn't help us move forward spiritually in any way. So people that say they're spiritual, I say, what? Okay, you became spiritual, right? Yes. Well, what happened the day before and what happened the day after? Well, I became spiritual. And what's that mean? You claim to be closer to what? God? Can you describe God in any way? They can't. I listen to every speaker that's out there, every famous speaker. Deepak Chopra and Eckhart Tolle have no clue to God, no clue to death, no clue to reincarnation. When Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle tries to talk about God, really? I mean, Oprah Winfrey asked him, what's death about? He goes, well, my mother and father died. My family died, he said. Does that mean he's spiritual? You need to know things before you get there, or you can't stay there. The astral plane is where I have to give it numbers to get some kind of understanding. 98% of all people that die go to the astral plane. Now, 2 things happen. Depending on karma, 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 and your level of awareness determines that. Now, you can have a lot of karma, go to the astral plane and say, I'm going to stay here. You can't. you got to reincarnate back. You can go to the ESA plane and say, well, can I stay here? Well, you don't have any karma. You've been trying to find out about truth. You can stay there. And you get to stay there. But not many souls even get to stay there, never mind move on. If you're an aware being and you're on the ESA plane, you can move forward. But there's gods there, little gods, which are called deities, that you have to go past, including Lucifer. And you have to figure a way to get past them. And each one of them has something that you have to do to get past them to get to the next realm. People say, well, I just left my body, I went through all these realms. They're all the dimensional realms I told you that are in the physical reality. If you go through 9 of them, you're still going through the physical reality of this realm. Your body can't be alive when you stay in the other realms, people. All right? You have to let go of the body. And that's what you're supposed to be learning, not holding on to it. You can't grow. And you can't grow spiritually. When people in power play, they're not playing to become more spiritual. Everything in this reality is about money now. All right. A better job. I'm more aware so I can make more money. Going to college teaches you what? A job. I mean, you could be a busboy in Atlantic City or Vegas and make a lot of money. Does that mean you're spiritual? Money doesn't make a person spiritual. Ever. Getting married doesn't make a person spiritual. Ever. All right, having children doesn't make a person spiritual. Now, why would we assume that Jesus was spiritual when he was born? One person was preaching about Jesus coming. All right, John the Baptist, okay? He was preaching about it. He was the only one telling about what's going to happen. I mean, he had a horrible death and everything, but by the same token, he was the first person to baptize Jesus. You know, when you think about it, why do people have these gifts? Because, you know, God allows things to happen, and then the angels have to work with those people. People don't really come to their senses by themselves. Even Einstein was not working with angels. Sorry. He worked with an alien race that did not teach him right. I can go into that, but not right now. Tesla worked with a race completely and brought all their inventions to reality. 250 of the most deadliest weapons on the planet. Do you understand that? He wasn't working with God. Weapons aren't created by God. God doesn't want us to make weapons and doesn't say, hey, make some weapons to destroy a country, to blow people up, or kill a person. Man does. Man, French, English, Spain, Spanish people, had to come to the United States to kill 50 Native American people. And that's sad. That's really sad. But they killed the Quakers. I mean, we hear about the Jewish being killed. The Jews being killed, okay? Why? It's called ego. Ego and religion are what all wars are based on. Not about God. You don't go to God and... Well, see, Joan of Arc was talking to God in her mind always. But sadly, she led all the wars to bring victory or defeat to their armies. And that's why they decided to kill her. All right. Now, where do we go? Where is the next step you can take? Christmas mongoose. No, but I saw one yesterday. But he's so low to the ground, he can't see as far. So when I say get him, he doesn't know which way. He'll pretend he's ready to run, but he doesn't know which way to run. But I usually try to point him in a direction. But mongoose, they're killing them all the time here. It's sad. People are just shooting them. They're destructive. They're killing the pigs here, the wild boar. They're killing the deer here. All right. But that leaves us with the fire ants, which are really horrible, and the centipedes. So that's what goes on in Hawaii. It's not the beautiful place that you think it is in every aspect. It's got better temperature than most places. But spiritual people, do you know we have the highest drug addicts in the world? Not the world, in the United States, sorry. Based on the amount of people we have here. We have the highest homeless people based on the population here. And where are they? In the streets, on the beaches, and everywhere else. Thievery is big because people don't have food. So, but let's get back to consciousness, religion, spiritualism. The definitions are given by man. When a person says a word, and they give it a definition, it gets accepted by how many people accept it. I mean, if only one person accepts it, it doesn't become a word. I created a word, reincarnation, reincarnating, but initiate into the spiritual realm. Being aware at one level. Coming back for a reason. Well, I had a reason to come back. Yeah, because you got karma, period. All right, you're attached. The five passions of the mind brought you back. Both of them, karma and attachment. All right, I'm attached to my children, my family. You had multiple families, people. Everybody did. You reincarnated many times. Do you know how many families you had? How many children you had? How many wives or husbands you had? So you really think it's important to stay with the one that you're with right now? Even if there's 3 or 4? What if you're married 3 times? Which one do you think you're going to be in heaven with? Which one did you like the most? Well, the last one I was with. But no, 2 of them died because they had cancer. One had this. Lucifer is a spiritual being. He's the highest angel. And people don't realize that. When he fell, all the angels fell with him. All right? People understand it. Satan's a different entity. Satan was the gatekeeper of hell. And he still is. And more people accepting Satan now without knowing its name than anything else. Playing with weapons, creating weapons is not about God. All right, poison in food, taking food away, creating disease and viruses, and all those things have nothing to do with God. There's natural death that God allowed, because if we didn't get sick and we lived forever here, we would never grow. We would never leave hell. If you didn't feel pain and suffering, you might not think about anything other than having sex all day, every day for the rest of your life. And that would be okay for most people. Again, it has nothing to do with God. Kama Sutra. I mean, some created sex with it and some don't. I can't think of the other word. It goes along with it, but Tantra sex, okay? That doesn't bring you closer to God. It brings you closer to your ego. All right? Now, when we deal with life, we have to figure out what we're going to do with our life. You know, take the next step in your life. All right? Lucifer's a high being. When you go to the astral plane, there's 3 deities there. I call Lucifer a deity. All right? Jehovah is the other one. And there's another deity. Not going to say his name. But the 3 of them make sure no soul goes past the astral plane into the next realm until they can vibrate at that level. You can't have any parts of your body and mind and all that to go into the 3rd realm. You can't. So, and then when you're in that realm, you can't be hanging on to certain things either to get into the next realm. It's school. It's like 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. 5th grade being the highest soul goes to. And then there's a point. It's called the of this soul body. You can't go beyond the soul plane when you're in your soul body. You can't go beyond the astral plane because you're still in your astral body. So these things are really critical, people. Every aspect of it. If you're ready to move forward, listening to these people speak in a UFO world that's getting horrible liars and storytellers and trying to make us work with aliens and all that. It's not what we need. It's not going to help us, and it's never going to make us more spiritual. Ever. We have been chosen, people. You heard the word? We have been chosen, but we don't recognize it as a gift from God and understand what that means. I just watched the movie, but I don't want to get into my movies because I just watched 2 different series, but on Netflix. But understanding you get a gift from God. Do you use it or don't you? You know, if somebody handed you and said, "This is of God," a glass of water, and it was like, do you take a sip? Do you drink the whole thing? What do you do? Well, your awareness would tell you what to do at that time. I learned that the hard way. I was getting visions, all right? I saw all my past lives, all of them. But then, what was important to me? Now, when you look at your life and all your past lives, and you say, "Are you moving forward?" I listen to all the people that say they're aware of this and they're aware of that. I said, "Where are you now?" They don't know what their true self is. They don't, because it has nothing to do with sex, has nothing to do with the amount of children you have. Now, when Jesus was teaching his disciples, not all the people, they didn't understand him. He told them to leave their families, their children. Jesus had 2 brothers that became disciples, not disciples, but they became his followers. All right, but here's the thing. These people that were with Jesus didn't understand what he was teaching. His disciples did not either. Again, Jesus went to ascension, and he was teaching them how to go through it. Going through ascension, you attain 32 psychic abilities off of the astral plane. They're not important beyond the astral plane, but they are from there to here. So when you're learning them, guess what? How many people learn them now? They all existed in Atlantis, and it was all taken away. And people have drips and drabs of psychic abilities. Can you name one person who has 32 psychic abilities and can prove any one of them? In detail. Levitate levitate that right now. Or do this. Or, I mean, there was a TV show about levitation, and this guy traveled the world trying to find anybody that could prove they could levitate. He ended up going to the mountains in Tibet and finding this Lama that was sitting across the room. He levitated 3 inches off the ground. And he wouldn't even let the guy come close to him. You know, I don't want to just put religion down because I don't like religion. Religion was being always reprogrammed over and over by man. And man always ruins what it touches. Man doesn't make things better ever. Cars that drive themselves aren't making things better for us in any way. It's taking away everything we do. You have to look at the things from the true side, not your ego side. Oh, it's my car. I'm getting a new car, hopefully. Does a lot more than my car has now. But you know, things can help. Like automatic braking, you close your eyes and you're twisting your head and the car stops because you're going to hit something. It's a good thing. But you know, being aware of things that you should be aware of all the time is hard. And now with the drugs and stuff they're putting in your food and the air, chemtrails and all that, you don't have that awareness. You're losing more and more of your true awareness. Learning how to talk and understand what soul's saying. Meaning, how do you listen to yourself? It's a simple technique. I can give it to you right now, but I'm not. Soul, who you are, over the mind, which is consciousness, which Buddha taught, is two separate entities. And I could say you could prove it to yourself in 2 weeks, but I'm going to be doing a workshop with TJ soon, hopefully. Come to it. I don't know how she's going to do it, what she wants to do as far as money and all those kind of things. I try not to make money. I'm not doing any of this to make money right now. Or have I ever? Because truth isn't something you buy. You can't buy truth. Never mind follow through with it if you do hear it. If you don't accept it, it's not truth, is it? If you don't believe it, it's not truth. All right. You see, I'm trying to get through these things. I want to see if there's anything else important that I really want to get into before I say goodbye. You know, what is our truth in the United States? Everybody relies and believes in the Constitution. And it's not good. It's not real. And it was never important for us. Hold on, let me just read this real fast. Right? Just because they wrote about Jesus, they don't know what he was teaching. His disciples did not know. No, very few souls have any awareness of what spiritual reality is compared to physical and mental reality. Well, I appreciate that. Not that I'm feeling much better. I just turned 70, and it's like, I never wanted to live past 50. Never, when I was reached 30, I said, oh, wow, I'm old. But then when I was 50, I said, well, I don't get too much older. Now that I'm 70, no matter what, most people die around 70 to 80. And I'm not worried. I want to leave. I mean, there's better places to go. Why stay in hell? But I had to make sure that I paid off my karma. Because I don't want to be stuck in a place that I don't want to be, meaning that the lower realms. Soul plane is where souls should try to attain in a lifetime. And it's possible. All right. Not the astral plane, not the mental plane, not the etheric plane, first, second, third, fourth planes. They're all 1,000 times better, or even 100,000 times better than here. All right. So, with that being said, why would you want to be walking around in mud? I mean, you go to Woodstock, they were walking around in everything contaminated, ground, mud, and everything else. But why would you want to be doing that than being in a light body, light shining through dimensions and realms and doing all kinds of incredible things, than being here thinking about when's the next time I'm going to have sex? When's the next football game on? What's important, people? Nothing. Nothing that man thinks about. World peace, world love. Not going to happen. As long as man can't accept a real God, they're going to keep creating their own. As long as they keep creating their own, they're never going to understand anything about a God. Because God's not here to save you. It gave you free will. What do you think free will means? I move forward or I don't. Do you follow God or do you follow everybody's teachings? Religion is a man's teaching. Jesus did not come here to create a religion. He gave people a technique. This is not in the Bible. Anybody that did his technique were killed. They were sought out. It's like what they did in Buddha in Tibet. Anybody that put the Dalai Lama's picture on the wall or sang something about the Dalai Lama were killed or put in prison. It's not much better now. You're talking how many years ago? Mankind is not growing spiritually. Thinking aliens of any level can help us. They're all not higher than the astral plane. None of them are. And when they drive around in a ship, they're in a physical body, people. Dimensional beings don't travel around in ships either. People have these words, they put them together, they create them, move them around, mix them around. They're different. They're all different. Your astral body, your physical body is your physical body. But soul dwells in this between the astral body and the physical body. All right? It can learn from the astral plane if it wants to, if it's ready. Because if you die, you need to know how to move around in the astral plane. You still can have your guides or your angels working with you then. But then you'll listen and you'll know it's true. But here's the thing. Once you travel, when you leave your body, you need to that's the wrong word, sorry. Challenge, I meant to say. The being or the entity that you're working with. Deities are what they are. Angels are what they are. Demons are not what they appear to be. They can change form. They can become anything you want them to be. Here's something that I'm going to tell everybody in the world. Whatever you stand before in the astral plane, they cannot tell you they are God. They cannot. They don't have the power to do that. All right? They can say lots of things like, I am all that you search for. I am everything you need. I am all those things. I am all things. They could say anything other than they are God. So it's something you should know when you get into the astral plane. And then if you don't know what something is, challenge it in the name of God. What are you? If it's a demon, it can't say I'm God. Or if they can't say I'm an agent of God. People, there's so much important things you need to learn, but you need to learn them yourself. I can't give you all the truth. I can tell you how to find it and things like that. Ukraine and Russia. People, normal people. Wiping out people, destroying cities and children. It's pathetic, people. Putin wants global warming. Do you know that? He wants to be able to grow vegetables 9 months a year instead of 4 or 5. But then again, they're working with aliens, people. They're starting to get better weapons than they had. But we've been working with aliens more than any other race. People, China wasn't more advanced with the alien races, neither was Russia. Germany was getting involved with working them. But Germany, Russia, and the United States were working together, indirectly, on the whole UFO realm. But the problem is, it's only about war. It's not about God. It's not about compassion and being a human. It's about being a programmed entity. I can go into all that. I can go into the horrible things, which people don't want to hear. Everything I say is horrible. I can't even talk to my partner. Oh, you got negative stuff. Tell me something positive happening on our planet. One thing. I mean, multi-billionaires worried about taking a trip around Mars and Moon, spending millions of dollars to do that. Millions of dollars can feed all the homeless people in a second. Or could build homes for people that are freezing and starving and dying. The native people have been dying because they didn't even have electricity on the reservation. They had plastic bags over their windows and things like that. I went out there. Some of the tribes, now, they're being bought out. I don't want to get into that situation. It's a whole other scenario. But the government's buying the native people out. The leaders. Most of them are multimillionaires now. Did you know that? Not the community, not the village. Some give back a little. Most of them do not. But there was 565 tribes. It's a number that varies, but who can prove how many there really were? But there were 5 root races. Put it that way. One root race that was here originally, people. One, and that was the Hopi people. I mean, the Aztecs, the Mayans all claimed different things, but no, it was only the Hopi people. And then they came from different parts of the world, and that's when all the other tribes started coming in. All right, people. I can go on forever, and I know I see a lot of people here, and I'm glad. But I know the people that have been here the whole time already are probably the heads probably filled with a lot of stuff. That stuff has to be translated into reality for themselves. All right, you need to understand what we talked about already. I can't give you more stuff because understanding God is not what we perceive it to be. Understanding death is really important, much more than life is. But preparing for it is the most critical thing in life. And it's no, we rather prepare to live longer here and let machines do everything for us. What is that, people? Do you know machines? Mr. Musk and Gates are really, really hurting every aspect of what we're doing. You're going to be eating cricket burgers, and the worst possible thing I could ever imagine is roach milk. I'm serious. Go online. Check it out. We're headed for some really bizarre, crazy, ignorant stuff. But because there's no God in their reality, there's no truth in what they're doing. Global warming isn't natural, people. Not anymore. Sure, change the planet here and there, but it's when we create a major earthquake. Tesla created an earthquake machine in 1900. You don't think the government made a more advanced technology than that? Time travel has become real for our government, people. And that's another evil, horrible thing for our planet. We are screwed up. Every which way, people. Oh, but we love life. We love people. We love. Do you? Can you smile and realize that a little child's being sexually abused, body parts being sold, all those kind of things right now? In Hawaii, they have meetings in the churches about the children being kidnapped and sold and all that. It's crazy, but it's real, much more real. The homeless people, it's easy to take a homeless person. Who cares? Who knows? War, it's easy for aliens to take people then. It was just he died in a war. We can't find him. When you go to a park, here's something you should read. There's a couple books out there of the people disappearing in the parks. And the cars are still there and things like that. It's not they fell off a cliff. It's not this, or they got eaten by a bear and all that. People see their children disappear in like 30 seconds. And they didn't fall off a cliff because they could look down and it's not around. So there's horrible things happening that way. Can the government talk about it? No, they can't stop it. That's why they can't admit about abduction. And that's why everybody's putting out aliens are good. Good for what? To eat you? And that's the number one food, people. That's why they're here. Then it's blood and DNA and ovaries. Outside of that, they don't need us. They're not coming here for our brains. Tesla worked with aliens. That's where he got his technology from. Do you want the truth? Or do you want to listen to all these other idiots going on and on about baloney? I've been trying to get in touch with Lou Elizondo. He's like one of the top speakers in the UFO world. He can't get back to me. He's afraid to talk to me. Because if he's still working for the government, he can't say a lot of things. People, I've been doing my shows for a long time. I mean, I had lots of followers when I was doing, what was it? Black, something horse radio show or whatever. I did it for almost a year. I got into a debate with the one that ran it, and he said I believed in the flat earth. I never said the flat earth was real, ever, because it isn't. And there's so many simple ways to prove it. And people higher up in brain levels, supposedly, call the earth and say the earth's flat. Well, we can prove it. We can prove the scale measure of this. I say, go to an ocean, go to an inlet, bring a powerful telescope with you, and see what you can see. If the earth was flat, you'd be able to see something. But you can't. There's little things that people with brains can't even see. They're saying it could be right in front of you and you still can't see it? Well, God was always here. All right? Satan was always here. And here. Who do you want to follow? Satan, because he gives you more pleasure. See, Satan's not the evil one to what we perceive. Oh, he's the devil. He gives you everything you want to keep you here. If everybody left planet Earth, who would Satan be in control of? Nobody. But he likes getting people to follow him. Sure, you got to do its deeds, like kill people and all that other stuff that goes along with it. Even Bob Dylan went public and said he sold his soul to the devil. And he said when he did that, even if he sold that song to another singer, it went gold. You know, think about it, people. Well, how do you sell your soul to the devil? By not knowing the truth. You know, in the Bible it says if you don't know the truth, it's not wrong when you do it. Which is kind of true. But when you know it's wrong and you do it, oh, I can speed, I'm not going to get caught today. I can do this, I'm not going to get caught today. That's knowingness. I mean, jumping out a window, knowing you're going to go a long way down and you get smashed, that's knowingness. But jumping in the water, saying that's fun, but if somebody jumped into the ocean and you didn't know how to swim, you didn't know it, and you didn't know yet. I mean, I don't want to go into my stories. I mean, I was little, I was on a tube and I went out and I jumped off the little pier out there and went in the water and the tube flew away and I was drowning. My father was on the beach just standing there laughing. Some guy pulled me up out of the water and brought me into shore. You know, people think life's a joke. It's not a joke. It's the most important place to learn what you can learn. And you can go from here to the higher realms. You don't have to stay in the astral plane. Oh, somebody mentioned strawberries. I told you that already. What race loves strawberries? But again, people is much more important for food. All right. Look, I did enough for today, I think, people. Any questions, anything, please. I answer your questions. If you have a real want to do a conversation of something important, I bring you on. But I want to make sure you're not going to go into some deep thing that I know is not true. I mean, I'm supposed to have Laura Eisenhower on. I'm debating it. I did a show with her 2 years ago for 2 hours. She couldn't say much. Truth covers all the lies usually. But then again, how many people want to look at the truth? Well, look, people, it's been a pleasure. My partner's not here. I can scream and yell, which I didn't do much today. I like to do it sometimes just to wake people up. You know, that's what classical music's about. Da, 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 da. It's to wake you up because it's not you're falling asleep. So, you know, if we look at the facts behind things, try this. Listen to something that you call nice music. Close your eyes and try to see it as an energy wave going out. And then follow it. Because you can get in touch with what the person that created that music tried to create. A teacher I had taught me that. There's things we can do for just simple awareness of things as well. But if you're not willing to try it, if you think your truth's so important, tell me how you're going to see God. What's the first thing you got to do? Look, people, I do this from my heart. I pay for my show every day. I'm not asking for money. I mean, thank you for the gift. I got a gift for my birthday. But people, I'm doing this just to put the truth out there. It needs to be there. Atlantis thought said, the truth will destroy all the lies in the end. Does that mean the end of your life or the end of time? The end of what? But think about it. Truth is there, and you gotta find it. You have to, or you just will be here. And when you come back in your next lifetime, you're not going to remember much. Well, people, it was a pleasure, and I love to do the show. I mean, I just finished my new book. I'll get into that next time. I might do a show on that because it's really hardcore, and a lot of men will hate me because what I say in that book is real. All right. Till next time.